Welcome back, sixth graders, to our second lesson dealing with adding integers. So that deals with, again, integers are any positive or negative whole number. So it deals with adding positives and negatives. So they start you out kind of bringing you back to elementary school a little bit with dealing with positive and negative counters. Okay, so if we have 4 negative counters here and we add 3 negative counters. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to add 1, 2, 3 more. Well, that's pretty easy to see that it gives us 7 negative counters. So negative 4 plus negative 3 makes negative 7. Now the next one gets you to think a little bit about, okay, I have 3 negatives to start with, and I'm going to add to that 2 positives. So when you have a positive and a negative of the same counter, of the same value, they're called a zero pair. So we get rid of those. A positive and a negative make 0. So when you take a negative 3 and you add 2 positives to it, it actually only leaves you with 1 negative counter, which would give you an answer of negative 1. So negative 2 plus negative 3, plus a positive 2 gives us a negative 1. Now, in this example, they move us away from the counters and get us to think about a number line. So we start at 0, and then we're going to move 5 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. And then we're going to add to that negative 3, which means we're going to move backwards 3. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, 3. And that puts us at a positive 2. So positive 5 plus negative 3 would give us a positive 2. So again, 2 methods using counters and using a number line. Now I want you to think about this for a minute. If the sum of 2 integers is negative, are both integers needing to be negative? Well, they could be, but they don't have to be. Sorry for my poor penmanship. They could be, but they don't have to be. And let's give you an example here. Okay, if I had you take a positive 4 and add to that a negative 5, I want you to think about what that would be, right? Positive 4 and negative 5 would give us a negative 1. So the sum is negative. The sum is negative, but both integers were not negative. One was positive and one was negative. So it could be, but it doesn't have to be that way. Now on the flip side here, if the sum of 2 integers is positive, are both integers positive? And again, could be, but don't have to. Let's give you another example here. Let's flip that first one around and let's make the 4 negative and the 5 positive. Well, that would come out with a positive 1. So the sum right here, the sum is positive, but both integers were not positive. One was negative and one was positive. All right, so now when we get into actually adding, what we try to do in middle school is to get you to think of these 3 steps right here. Instead of having to use counters and number lines all the time, we like you to try to think about why these things work. Okay, so the first question that we ask ourselves, and number 1's a pretty simple one, so but I'm going to kind of talk through the rule though. All right, so the first thing is the bigger number positive or negative? Okay, the bigger number in this one is 9, and that is a positive number. What that tells you is your answer going to be positive or negative? If the bigger number is positive, then your answer will be positive, and if your bigger number is negative, then your answer will be negative. Okay, next question is, do they have same or different signs on them? Well, as you can see, they are both positive numbers, so they have the same signs. When they are the same, we find the sum of those 2, which would give us that positive 13. Okay, now number 2 is a little bit better to show that, okay? Is the bigger number positive or negative? Okay, the bigger number in this one is 5. I know a lot of you are thinking, well, negative 1 is bigger than negative 5. But we're just talking about the number only. Okay, 5 is bigger than 1. So what this tells you then is my answer is going to be a negative answer because the bigger number was negative. Now, do they have same or different signs? Well, they are both negative, so they have the same signs, which means we're going to do the sum of the two numbers. So 5 and 1 makes 6. So we already knew it was going to be a negative, and then I just have to do the sum of those two numbers. Okay, number 3, I go through my 3 steps every time. Bigger number is positive. So my answer is going to be a positive number. Do they have same or different signs? Well, this is negative and this is positive. The 8 is negative and the 13 is positive, which means they have different signs. So I'm going to do the difference of 13 and 8, which would give me 5. And again, it's a positive 5 because 13 was bigger. Okay, number 4, bigger number, positive or negative. Okay, the bigger number is 12, and 12 is a positive number, so my answer is going to be positive. Same or different signs, well, the 12 is positive and the 8 is negative, so they have different signs, which means I'm going to find the difference of 12 and 8, which is 4. And I knew it was going to be a positive because the bigger number was positive. Number 5, is the bigger number positive or negative? Okay, the bigger number is negative, so I know that my answer is going to be negative. Do they have same or different signs? Well, the 10 is negative, the 6 is positive, so therefore they have different signs. So we're going to find the difference of 10 and 6, which makes 4. And again, I knew it was negative because my bigger number was negative. And number 6, the last one, well, they're opposites of each other. One is negative 14 and one is positive 14. So you know when you have an opposite of something, it's going to make 0. Now, I'd like you to pause your video, and I would like you to try these 5 on your own and come back and check them with mine. All right, so hopefully those came out to be what they should be. And again, using those 3 rules, hopefully we can get to that point. All right, the list shows 4 bank account transactions in July. Find the change C in the account balance. So what we're going to do here is we're going to simply know that withdrawals are taking money out, which are negatives, and deposits are putting money in, which is positive. So we are simply going to add negative 40 plus a positive 50 plus a positive 75 plus a negative 50. Notice how I'm adding this entire time, okay? So I'm going to start by doing negative 40 plus 50. And I go through my 3 steps kind of in my head every time. Okay, that would come out to be a positive 10. Now I'm going to take this positive 10 and I'm going to add that 75 to that right there. Well, I think we all know that'll come out to be 85. Now I'm going to take my 85 and I'm going to add this negative 50 to that. So now is where, again, I'm going to go through my 3 steps in my head. Okay, the bigger number is positive. They have different signs. So I do the difference, which would come out to be a positive $35. All right. Now, the last thing here is, what do you know about the sum of A plus B? When you look at this number line, what do you notice about the sum of A plus B? Well, the sum will have to be positive. And the reason why is because, and again, that's how I abbreviate, because the greater number is positive. So when you look at this, B is greater than A. Okay, so the bigger number is positive, which makes my answer then have to be positive. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now the last thing here is 2 integers have different signs and their sum is going to be negative 8. What are some possible values for the 2 integers? Okay, and I'm going to ask us maybe do 3 of them. What are 3 possible values this could be? So one of them that pops into my head would be like negative 9 plus positive 1. So they have different signs. The 9 is negative and the 1 is positive, and their sum comes out to be negative 8. Okay, I'm going to try to think of another one. So maybe I do negative 10. Well, negative 10 plus a positive 2 would also give me a negative 8. Again, different signs. One is negative, one is positive, but their sum is still negative. And one more, we could just bump it up another one and say negative 11 plus positive 3. And that would also give us that negative 8. All right, so hopefully adding integers is making sense to you. I want to bring you back again to these 3 steps right here. These 3 steps really will help you as we move through the next couple of lessons. All right, good luck.